Hi, this is the Holiday Hack Challenge 2024 edition, and I solved the last two challenges that I had on Act 2. We have the PowerShell one for this video, and after that there's the Snowball Showdown. And previously I already solved the Microsoft KC7 one. So let's see the PowerShell challenge, which was a bit tougher, but it was still pretty good. This is a level 3 difficulty challenge, and the easy version of the challenge is really smooth sailing. The hard one is a bit tougher, and I spent probably an hour figuring it out. But overall, this is not one of those tougher challenges, especially because for the easy one you get a lot of hints. So we need to talk to Piney about this challenge here. And if we go under, sorry, not story, but map, Piney is located over here. So we have to get out from the DMZ that they have here between the two factions of the elves. And we will see that with these two challenges, the situation is getting worse. The elves are really in a huge battle with each other. And if we talk to Piney, the elf will tell us that they have a remote control system for the Snowball Weaponry, and they lost access to it, so we need to help them. It was definitely not Piney Sappington who programmed this, but he really would like to regain access. Piney, by the way, I think is voiced by Chris LG from the Counter Half folks. And there are two functions. He needs access, basically the easy and the hard version of the challenge. And for the easy one, we're not getting any hints because the hints are with the terminal. Now I will probably zoom in and out for this challenge because the terminal is kind of tiny and some of the text scrolls away. So we'll try it with 10% plus, and hopefully this will be large enough. You know what, maybe we should 125 should be good. Let me just restart the terminal here. I think you should be able to read this one. Okay, so first we need to answer yes, that we're ready to take the challenge, and then the terminal will initialize. By the way, because this challenge includes a lot of code snippets and larger code blocks, I created a paste bin paste. You can find the code snippets in the description with some very lightweight description of the challenge itself, but it's more to allow you to copy paste things from the solution that I have. This is a terminal that kind of works well, so you can clear the terminal. I'm using the Control-L combination to clear the terminal, just like I would with a normal Linux terminal. And the first task here is to get the contents of a file in the current working directory. Now, interestingly, the ls command, for example, does not work, but you can dir. I'm saying interestingly because we have /home/user, so it kind of feels like it is actually a Linux running PowerShell, yet the dir command is the only one that is available. Maybe this is something unique to the PowerShell running on Linux systems. Let me see this welcome.txt file. Now in the terminal, we can ask for hints. So if we type hint, then we get a very high-level hint. So they tell us that get content is the PowerShell command that to read a file. I will just copy paste the solutions here to save some time. So yes, get -content, or you can also just abbreviate it to GC if you like. This is a nice little PowerShell trick. And then /welcome.txt. In PowerShell, you really need to be precise on where you would like to access a file. So You cannot just do it in a lazy way like you would do it on a standard CMD, but instead you have to use the absolute path. So / means that this is under the current directory. And if we list out the contents, then we advance to the next step. So step number 2, which is asking us, by the way, you can read the file here. There's just a lot of context to the ELF conflict and this challenge. So not really important. The next task is to count the number of words and ask for another hint here. And counting lines, for example, just like you would do it with word count in Bash, in PowerShell is the measure object. Now they also tell us that if you are in doubt, you can always, I will do the copy and pasting for this one. You can always use get help. Get help is probably one of the most useful PowerShell commandlets out there because it allows you to get the help for other PowerShell commandlets. And if you look at measure object, they will tell you that they have -line, -word, and -character as options. So that is very useful for us because if we would like to count the number of words, we can do it with measure object and -word. And this gives us the various options here in a table format and words. Now, this is not part of the challenges. As you can see, it is progressing, but later it will be probably useful to keep in mind that we can also pipe this to the select object PowerShell commandlet, and then with -expand property selecting the appropriate property of the output, we will be able to just get that value. Now in PowerShell, when you use pipes, you're not passing on string. That's one of the things that you really need to keep in mind when you're working with PowerShell. You're passing on objects. So the output of measure object is another object, and select object will work on that object that you're passing on to it. And expand property will just select that one attribute, that one property of the object that you're passing on. I think the naming of these PowerShell commandlets do help because they contain the word object, and this makes it easier to remember this important principle. By the way, this challenge made me realize how little I know about PowerShell. I know some basics, and this was just enough to get through this challenge quite fast, but I decided to sign up for 2 PowerShell classes after this challenge. So hopefully my skills will improve. PowerShell is a very useful skill to have. In today's world with Windows systems, you pretty much administer everything with PowerShell. And the other very useful skill to have in today's enterprise environments is KQL, which will be another challenge. But let's keep on moving. So I just wanted to show you that you can also have the 180 as an output with select object. I'll use this little trick later when we do the hard version of the challenge. So the next thing we need to do is find the server port where it's listening on, and they tell us that we can just use netstat. Now normally there should be the get net TCP connection PowerShell commandlet available as well, which is not available for us in this case, so we really have to use netstat. And whenever I use netstat, I always like to add the -NA options at least, because if the DNS is not configured, I don't want to waste time trying to resolve the addresses, even though they will not work. So -N will just take care of that and will not try to resolve the addresses here. There are other reasons why you don't want to do that, by the way, which is operational security potentially. And -A is just get all the details on the output. And we see that there is the port 1225, which is listening on the loopback address. Next question is, we should enumerate that web server communicating to the web server using HTTP. What is the status code we get? If we ask for a hint, it will tell us to use invoke web request, which is the classic way of interacting with HTTP based services. And we can see that we get a 401 unauthorized response code, which is always a sad thing to have. And it says it looks like defensive measures are in place, protected by basic authentication. Try authenticating with standard admin username and password. When someone tells you standard admin and username password, then you probably think admin. If you ask for the hint for this step, they are confirming our suspicion. So we need to make request with admin basic authentication credentials, and they tell us to use a get credential for this. Now, there are other ways to do this. I will use the most basic one, and when we do the hard version of the challenge, I will show you how you can avoid having to type in the username and the password. Get credential, for example, allows you to supply a username, but for the password you need a secure string. So I'm just going to use get credential. I'm going to store the output in this variable so that I can use it later with my other commands. I need to provide the username here, which is admin, and then the password, which is also admin. And now I can also echo the $creds variable here, just being lazy and not typing. You can see the username is admin, and this is what I was mentioning earlier. So the password is in this secure string object type. And next, we can use invoke web request. Now, if you look at the man page for this, the help page rather, man page is more for the Unix tools, then you will see that there's a -credential option. And if you pass on our variable, you will not get the result that you're expecting because there's some protection built in. Basic authentication is really just the username and a password separated by a column base64 encoded. So over an unencrypted channel, you're essentially passing on credentials in the clear. And invoke web request is prepared for that. We need to use an additional parameter here. Just use the up arrow and do dash. Paste this in. This doesn't have like a flag, true or false or anything. So if you use the allow unencrypted authentication parameter, it will just use the credentials. So this is confirming that this is indeed what we want to do. And we can see a response coming back. Oops. To click on this. Yeah, every now and then I might click on these. We see here a lot of references to various endpoints, actually. There are too many endpoints here. Use a loop to download contents of each page. What page has 138 words? When you find it, communicate with the URL and print the contents to the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to show you here the hint before we even progress. So measure object used to count the words, just like we did it before. And first of all, I'm just going to make the request again, and then under the response there was a links section. I can probably show it like this. Links section is where you have the links, and if you do response links like this, you will see all the links. Apparently we have 50 endpoints altogether, so we need to iterate over these. Now for the next step, I'm going to zoom back into 100%, and hopefully this will fit on the terminal screen, because I don't have any pagination here. Yes, okay, excellent. So probably I should show first the PowerShell snippet. So here I'm just using for each from 1 to 50. This is 2 dots here between the numbers, so it's a range that you can define this way. A lot of programming languages allow you to do this. So I'm going from endpoint number 1 to 50, and then I'm just adding here at the very end after /endpoints that number that we're taking from this range, and then taking the content using measure object word and this select object trick to get just the number of words. And then here I'm just printing out the endpoint number and the number of words under that endpoint. And what we have found was that we have on endpoint 13 138 words. It's actually pretty good that it's was able to fit all that on the screen. So now the last step is to make the request to endpoint 13 and then get the content. Yeah, get the contents to the terminal. We can see here some explanation about the MFA token scrambler, a lot of blah blah blah, but then note to self, remember to remove temp CSV file at this address here. Okay, so the system via CSV file could be valuable. Read the contents of the CSV file. You can ask for a hint, and they just tell us to use invoke web request here. So just do that. So here, let me go back here for the response content. Oh, I already made the request here for the next one. So I just want to show you here that this was the URL, and then we made another request here to the token overview CSV file. As well as the content, we see a lot of hash values, and the second column is all redacted here, except for the very last one. It says located defense mechanism or faulty. There seems to be one API endpoint, but it still isn't redacted. Communicate with that endpoint. And they also tell us that the endpoint is going to be tokens / and then the SHA-256 sum. At the top of this page, there's actually going to be a header saying that this is some file hash in MD5, and then this value is just the SHA-256 hash of the MD5 hash value. So we'll be able to recover these, but that's for the hard challenge. So right now, we're just going to grab this token value here, or endpoint rather, and this token value will be also needed. Here, the terms token and endpoint are kind of going to get mixed, but the hint will just tell us again, use the invoke web request and then get content to read the file. If you want to download the file. Here I am just taking the endpoint value from the CSV file. That's all that I'm doing here. And this is saying missing cookie token. So we need to set a cookie value for our request here. The next step, and this is the one before the last one actually, it looks like it requires a cookie token. Says the cookie and try again. It says use this .NET library to store cookies in your session. And this is where I kind of always felt that like PowerShell is partially going to be PowerShell and partially .NET because we have to use a lot of .NET objects. So here I am doing a variable for a session and using this library here that they told us, the web request session. And we're also going to create a cookie object. For the cookie, we're going to set a name, which is token, the value, which we saw from the CSV file, and then we also need to set the domain. Well, this is localhost, so I just use the local loopback address here, and then we're going to add that cookie to the session. And then we make the same request, but with dash web session session. You can also find this in the documentation of the invoke web request. So this one returns error token not found. And here I made a mistake because, again, this is not a token value. The token value is actually the MD5 hash. So I had to do it again. Now with the right token value. So this is the endpoint generated from this token value. And we need to provide the token as a cookie. And when we do that, it says cookie MFA code, use it at MFA validate, then this endpoint number here. So it returns, and by the way, it returns also this timestamp value. So this is our one-time code. It's a Unix epoch timestamp, which goes down to, I believe this is nanoseconds precision, which is, it always feels like an overkill. And here it is kind of confusing because it says MFA code, and you can try to use here the MFA code and grab the output. I'm not really sure why it's not advancing any further at this point, because we are going to use this value in the next step. So that's actually the next task, to take the MFA value and make another request to the MFA validate endpoint. So definitely do not want to do it just now. So what I did instead was using MFA code here actually. And it's kind of weird because it's advancing. So I think here is a glitch in the validation on the output and advancing the challenge, but that's okay. I managed to advance this one, and then it says, sweet, we got an MFA token. We might be able to get access to the system, validate that token at the endpoint. So if you do a hint here, they are telling us the cookie is called MFA token, not MFA code, by the way, which was in the response when we requested the endpoint. And then yeah, if the things are scrolling out, use outhost paging. I'm not really sure why would that be the case. So the initial attempt that I made was kind of a clumsy one with MFA code, but then it's complaining and saying missing cookie MFA token, and I didn't really read the hint either. But here I'm already grabbing the right value. So from the first link, I'm getting the href value, which was that, let me just show you again, the timestamp. So what we're going to do is make a request like this, and then we're going to extract this value from the response. Show you what that looks like. So we have the session here with the token as the cookie. We're going to the tokens endpoint. This gives us a response that contains the MFA token value. We're extracting it, setting that one, and then go to MFA validate, and the returned response content as success, and then some base64 encoded blob. That is the last step here. And if you ask for the hint, they will tell you to decode the base64 blob that we had. And if your output is all garbled, then maybe you need to change it to the correct encoding. I do get it why they say that. So when you use PowerShell to decode a base64 encoded blob, it always feels painful compared to, for example, Bash, because I don't think anyone can really remember this by heart. If you can, you should go out and touch some grass, because yeah, no one should ever remember something ridiculous like this. So I really wish that PowerShell had a better way of decoding base64. I find this one painful and cumbersome. Not my favorite language, to be honest, but yeah, I'm gonna force myself to learn this. Also look at the syntax. So we are creating text encoding, then we need to define Unicode, and then get the string, and then convert from base 64. It's just that's a lot of code for a very simple task. And when I hit enter on this, look at all this gibberish. Now, the reason why I'm showing you is when you search online for PowerShell base64 decoding, I haven't tried any of the LLM tools out there, but I'm pretty sure they would give you this example. They all mention Unicode, which is, I believe, 2-byte Unicode, because in Microsoft land, every Unicode value should be a 2-byte Unicode. Now, this is not 2-byte Unicode. This is 1-byte Unicode. So if you do UTF-8 instead of Unicode, then you will get the solution and the achievement. So it decodes, and we have the password for the access here. So that was the silver version, the easy version of the challenge. Let's check our achievement. They're now proud owners of silver PowerShell, and under objectives, show you, have the silver trophy. Okay, now we talk to the elf. Says fantastic work, and then gives you the task for the hard version of the challenge and 2 very important hints. So there's a way to bypass usual path and write your own PowerShell script to complete the challenge. Think you're up for it? I know you are. And then for some reason it says well done, demonstrate blah 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 blah. So I'm not really sure if that's the right order for the dialogue. But these 2 hints are super duper useful. So let's check them out. The first one is talking about how we are able to go to that CSV file and reconstruct the endpoints. We just need to use SHA-256 on the MD5 hashes, and it gives us the PowerShell commandlet that you can potentially use. I don't think that get file hash is the easiest and most straightforward way of doing it, but I will do it with that method just to show you that it's totally doable. And then the next one is talking about the fake protection mechanism that they implemented. So apparently they said just a threshold, if you try more than the number defined in the threshold, more than a certain number of times, then they would just respond as they would do it normally. So it's like a reverse threshold in this case. So you need to find the number of times when you need to ask the endpoint. We don't know which endpoint though, so this was kind of the tough part for me to figure out what they actually mean by all that. And eventually I just got lucky. I did not figure it out, I just got lucky. In hindsight, I understand what they were trying to show me, but I didn't get the hint first. Okay, so we can open up the terminal again and say we're ready. So the first order of business is we need to grab the CSV values. The way we did it was authenticating. So here I'm using a different method. I don't want to type in the username and a password. So for the user, I'm defining a string here. For admin, for password, I'm using the convert to secure string. This is often used in scripts, which is a big no-no, by the way. That is really not a good way of storing the script and a username and password for the script that you're using. Instead, do the prompted method or use some sort of vault like HashiCorp Vault or any other secret manager. Key Vault is a very popular one in Azure if we're talking about Microsoft, for example. But I'm just providing it here for convenience, and then use the system management automation PS credential to get the arguments and store these credentials. At the end, I'm going to end up with the same exact object. So if I do echo creds, I'm going to have the same exact thing as before. Actually, this is not something that I had in my notes, but just added that one. And now I can go to the endpoint where we had the CSV file. So this was under, oh, this is just a temporary file here, token underscore overview. And I'm directing this into a text file, the output. So this is actually not full CSV because if you remember at the end we had some comments. And what I'm doing is just getting the first, well, actually the first 50 and then ignoring the header. But let me just show you the header here. Oh, if I can, of course, which might be tricky in this case. Let's do it then first 5. Zoom back in. So the reason why I want to show this to you is just the header part here. So you can see the columns here. This is file MD5 hash, and then SHA-256 file MD5 hash is how you can reconstruct the lines here. So if we take a look at here, we have all the hashes. And what I'm doing here, because we have one example, we can check if this is giving us the correct number here. Let me just do it this way, last one, so that we can see this line and we can compare. I'm doing a lot of freestyling here just to make it more understandable. So we're going to use the get file hash, and here it's kind of tricky because get file hash is really meant for file content. That's why I don't really think that for a single string this is the most convenient and straightforward way of doing it, but it kind of works, so why not? Sure. We have here the algorithm defined, and then I create a stream, a byte stream from this hash value, which is the MD5 hash of the last entry in the CSV file, and then just getting the hash output parameter property from the get file hash output. And it's not matching the one that we had in the CSV. So this is kind of confusing, and it was giving me a lot of headache. But eventually, when I used the Linux echo command and then piped it into SHA-256, I realized what was going on. So when you just do an echo and a string, echo will echo in a new line character at the end of that string. So if you do echo, I'm not going to do it here, but like, you know, this value here, this is how you would do it. 256 sum. This is how you would do it. I wonder if it actually works. No, of course not. So this is how you would do it in Linux. And this actually gives the right value. So it turns out here, I need a new line character at the end. So check this out. And this took me more than I'm willing to admit. So I'm not gonna mention how much time I wasted on this, but I wasted a lot of time on this. And turns out I should just add a new line here, which is kind of this wonky, you know, the tick, the single tick that is like in an angle. That's the character on your keyboard next to 1. If you have an English keyboard layout. I don't know what to call this, like weird tick. Then this adds a new line at the end, and you can see that the two values now do match. So we need to pay attention to add this one when we calculate the endpoint value from the hash. All right, we're almost there. So let's see how this looks like in practice. So we are grabbing all the tokens from the endpoints, and I'm looping through on the tokens rejected each line. I am splitting that line on the comma and picking the first value. That's the MD5 hash. and I'm creating a token string. Now, initially, I did not do this, and when I created my final code snippet with the loop, I was confused because I got error messages that um, I'm not providing the right cookie value or something like that. And so we really want to preserve the token value because we will need that one for the later requests. So I'm just creating this helper variable here, which does have the new line character to create the endpoint value. And so this is the kind of ugly output, but the probably 100% should be the one that match. No, still not. Okay, like this. Perfect. So this gives us the right and recovered token values, the endpoint values. I keep saying token, but yeah, so this is the endpoint, this second column here, and these are the token values. And I know it's teeny tiny, but at the very end, we have the right value for our last token. So this seemingly works fine. Now the tricky part, okay, which endpoint do I need to request and how many times do I need to request it? Again, this was involving some head scratching. And what I came up with was this little code here. So I just took from the output the first token and the first endpoint, and I tried to figure out like what is happening. Is there any change in the response as I'm sending in requests? So I set the number of requests to an arbitrary value 20, and I wanted to see if you know, whatever comes back, I can figure out something. And I really couldn't, so I just went on. But I'll show you what you were supposed to find out here. And this is in the elf hint, by the way. So the elf tells you that the attempts cookie is shared between the endpoints, which is very cryptic, and I couldn't really decode what it means. So what I'm doing here instead is just trying to figure out what's going on. So I am manually setting the token and the endpoint value. And here we're just doing the same thing as in the silver case. So I'm making a request first to the tokens with the endpoint to get the MFA token, and then set the MFA token from that response that we got from tokens. Go to MFA validate, and then try the endpoint with that MFA token value. And here I'm just trying the same thing 20 times because they didn't tell us how many times do we need to try, what would be the threshold. So I'm just printing the content and the raw content as well. Not really sure why I'm printing the content part. Raw content gives us also so it's probably actually doesn't make too much sense to do raw content and content in the same time. I was trying to fix some things in the script. There we go. So this is more meaningful. So what we can see here as we run the same request 20 times against one specific endpoint is nothing changes. Even the cookie value here. So there's an attempts cookie value, which has this value here. Obviously, that one looks like base64, right? So I can take it to Cyber Chef, and this gives us snake oil and then X in a new line. That is the hint that I missed. I totally missed it. Looking back, snake oil, okay, yeah, so this is nothing because it doesn't change. I get it. X is the Roman number for 10. That's the threshold. I just didn't realize it. So I was like, okay, I'm not sure if this will work, so let's just keep on coding, and then I can still worry about like figuring out the threshold value. And I created the final code snippet. I'm not sure it will fit, so let me just zoom out one more time and paste it all here. It's kind of good. So initially, I'm doing the authentication, getting the CSV file, and then from the CSV file, grabbing the redacted token values. And here on the fly, I'm reconstructing the endpoint values. So This is the same code snippet as before. Then doing the request for the tokens endpoint, getting the MFA token, sending that one, and sorry about that. Going under MFA validate and the endpoint. And then here I already fixed the code. So initially I had 20 here. Apparently if you do it 11 times, then you will get the response, because X or 10 was the threshold. But I wasn't paying attention to that one. Luckily I chose a bit larger number, but not significantly larger. Here I want to save some time. And initially I didn't do any end like stop conditions, so the results were scrolling away. I have here an if statement looking for the word success in the content, and we're going to break out from this loop, which I cannot seem to find now. Yeah, there it is. There's a label here to break out from the loop, because we have a nested loop here. And I'm also going to do a sleep for every 1 second, so it's easier to track what's going on. So we're making, wait a second. This is not what I was expecting to see. Paste it here again. No, this still doesn't look very good. Why is it? Oh, because I have the raw content. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just fixing it now on the fly. This should have a nicer output. There we go. Okay, I just took off the raw content, so we're just going to see the responses coming here. There we go. So first endpoint, second, third, and so on. I think it's the endpoint 31, if I remember correctly. But we'll see that after bypassing the threshold and making a request, it returns a success. I don't have an iterator here. I'm just looping through. And once we have that one on the terminal, you can keep on trying. You will get still the achievement. Almost there. There we go. And because of the if statement in the loop, in the inner loop on success, my script execution stops here, and we have the other password here. We also had the achievement for the gold trophy. Let's do the ritual of checking the gold achievement here, and also under objectives you can see now the gold trophy, and our little elf is very, very, very happy with our amazing PowerShell scripting capabilities. So that was all for the PowerShell challenge. Hope you like the solution. It's not the most elegant, not the prettiest one, but I was also aiming for making it understandable for everyone when you are watching this video. The next video is the Snowball Showdown. That was a fun one. It's a cute little challenge with some JavaScript shenanigans going on there. So come with me to the next video and check out that challenge too.